welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 13-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, usually this is when I would go ahead and tell you guys a little bit about my Patreon package and some benefits that it has. But today I've decided to start a new thing that I like to call Free Friday, where as I'm going through this slate and I'm breaking it down for you guys, I'm going to show you things like my hot hitter StatCast data tab, my team hitting data tab, and my bullpen data tab, just to give you a sneak peek of some stuff behind the paywall, so to speak. I appreciate you guys tuning into the videos and all the support you give. And I want to give you guys some free content, give you a preview of what I have to offer over there. And then if you're interested, you can go ahead and purchase one of my packages. It supports me. I greatly appreciate it. And with that being said, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Every time you guys tune into the video, it helps me. I appreciate it. But that like button and that subscribe button are really going to help me in the YouTube algorithm and help me grow this channel. So thank you for all the support. You can follow me over on Twitter at KJK DFS. And with that being said, let's start breaking down this slate today. So as always, I like to go ahead and look at the K rate first of the starting pitchers. We're going to want to figure out some pitchers we're going to want to get in our lineups today. And with that being said, the top, go ahead and sort the sheet for you guys. Top pitcher on the slate in K rate today is that in Robbie Ray. He comes with a 30.9% K rate, taking on the San Francisco Giants, where if we look at the team hitting data tab over here, you can see that the Giants come in with a 21.7% K rate. So not the most strikeouts in the league. However, they're also not a very threatening lineup, and I definitely think there's some strikeouts in the matchup today with Robbie taking the bump with that 30.9% K rate. And then when you look at his splits, he comes with a 30.6% K rate against righties, and then against lefties, he has a 32.2% K rate. And he's a guy that's very splitsy, so lefties he's dominant against, and then righties he gives up some hard contact, but the strikeout rate's still there. So when looking at this San Francisco Giants team that is taking on today, they come in with a 4.5 implied team total against Robbie, and Robbie's only 7.3K on DraftKings. He's been a little rocky this season, but being that he's only 7.3 and he's got that high K rate, he tops the slate in K rate, he's definitely got the upside. It's really just the walks you have to worry about. And when you're looking at the lineup, the Giants have limited right-handed bats that really worry us. Don't get me wrong, there are some that do crush lefties, and Robbie could get himself in trouble here, but there are also some Ks there. But, you got Longoria, Wilmer Flores, Hunter Pence. They're all pretty good against lefties. And then you got Solano in the two-hole and Slater. There's a lot of right-handed bats. But overall, you're not dealing with a lot of elite names. And that's going to, increase the appeal for Robbie Ray. Not to mention he's going into San Francisco, which is one of the best pitching environments in the league. So he's in a great pitcher's ballpark that's going to help him out. It's a big upgrade from Arizona. So you got to have some interest in Robbie at the 7.3 price tag in the mid-range. Top pitcher on the slate as far as being an elite pitcher is that in Walker Buehler. He gets to take on the Colorado Rockies. They come in with a Walker Buehler comes in with a 28.1% K rate. Righties, he's got a 27.8 against righties, and then lefties, he's got a 28.6. Then going over to the team hitting data tab and looking at Colorado, who he's taking on today, the Rockies, are displaying not the highest strikeout numbers, but one thing to keep in mind with the Rockies is that they really excel at home in Coors Field, and on the road they're not as good. So their numbers can be inflated. It's something that gets held against many of these Rockies players in their careers. They get told, you're only good because you play at Coors Field, but that's a different discussion. And when looking at the Vegas lines today, Buehler comes in as a 244 favorite. And a 10.2 price tag. So he's a guy that's going to go out there, he's going to dominate, and anytime the Rockies are on the road, you prefer to target them a lot more. And Buehler's got the talent to get you a lot of strikeouts in this matchup, and you got to like him today. Top option on the slate. Further along, some more pitchers that we can target. Next on the list, I'm going to have to go with Lance McCullers. McCullers comes in with a 25.9% K rate. He's got a 13.1 swinging strike rate, which swinging strike rate is a stat you're really going to want to look at because, that gives us an overall idea of them throwing strikes and being effective. You don't want guys walking hitters, and you want strikeouts. It's fantasy sports where you need those strikeouts. So McCullers, great swinging strike rate, 22.4% K rate against righties, and then a 29.3% against lefties. And he's taking on the Padres today, who have been, the Padres have been hot, honestly. They're kind of hot in the news. Everyone's talking about the Padres. But when looking at the K rate, they're coming with a 22.9% K rate. So there are some Ks in the lineup. They're, on the yellow spectrum of my color sheet. And, with the strikeout rate in the matchup, with the strikeouts being there, you got to have some interesting lines of colors. And then he gets to go into San Diego. So, a pretty good pitcher's park. And he's at 9.3 on DraftKings. So he's a tier down from Buehler that we had talked about. If you need to save some salary and get some bats in, I think Buehler is a good option today. And then, moving further along, let's go ahead and look at some, a matchup. From a matchup perspective, some guys that we want to target. And I think from a matchup perspective, the best matchup on the slate is against the Detroit Tigers, and Adam Plutko gets to take on the Tigers. When looking at the team hitting data sheet that I have over here, you can see the Tigers have a very high strikeout rate. They come in with a 27.9% strikeout rate as a team, and then across the board, hitting-wise, they're not impressive either. That's very red on the sheet. That stands out. That's a team we're going to want to target. And, Plucko's definitely a guy that can provide us some salary relief. He's only 6'3" on DraftKings, and you got to have interest in him today. When looking at his numbers, he's not a guy that's an elite pitcher. He doesn't really blow us away with his numbers. And to be honest with you, they're not very good at all. If you look at the sheet, the ground ball, the fly ball stuff's not good. He's got a 17.3% K rate. But he doesn't walk anyone, and being that these guys strike out, I think we can go ahead and throw him in. First, I don't want to sit here and tell you guys, he's just this great option. It's really matchup, so that's what makes him a good option. But then it's salary relief as well. He's cheap, so if you want to throw in some elite bats, go ahead and throw him in. But with that being said, if you look at his splits, he's got a 23.1% K rate against righties, and then against lefties, it dips down to an 11.5. So he gets his strikeouts against right-handed hitters. So this is all stuff that we want to factor in. And when looking at this Detroit lineup that he's taking on today, they do have their fair share of righties, and they do have their fair share of righties with high strikeout rates. So, talking a lot about Plutko because, when you look at his numbers on my sheet, you think, why would I want to play him? Look at all the red. That's not appealing at all. But when you look at the matchup, that's what makes him appealing. And then you look at the salary, that's what makes him appealing. So he's a guy that we can throw into our lineups to give us some salary relief and to get up to some higher tier bats. So that's why I'm mentioning him. Got to go over that stuff. Got to let you know my thought process. That's all the stuff that goes into it. And lastly, he comes in as a 190 favorite. So Vegas does like him as a favorite in this spot. Get you that win, get you those extra fantasy points. And with that being said, let's go ahead and transition over into some bats that we're going to want to target today. And when looking at bats, I like to short my sheet by Sierra. And Sierra is just a metric stat that gives you an overall understanding of how good a pitcher has been and how good a pitcher will be in the future. So you can see, we went ahead and sorted this. We're looking at the guys that are in the red category and who we want to target. The first guy that stands out is that in Colby Allard taking on the Seattle Mariners. He's got a 5.37 Sierra against righties. You go over, he's got a 15.4% K rate. Terrible, well, I shouldn't say terrible, but just bad overall in the slugging and the hard contact rate. He's in the orange range on my sheet. And then against lefties, you could argue he's even worse. So he's just bad. He's just bad overall. He's a young kid. He's supposed to have a lot of talent, but if you look at his numbers, he's really been struggling. And when looking at the lineup he's taken on today in the Seattle Mariners, they're not really a team that we like to target a lot, unfortunately. So, while I went over Allard's numbers and they're less than impressive, in this particular case, I think we can go ahead and write these guys off. However, I will say you could definitely throw in some sneaky plays. Being that he struggles against righties, throw in a guy like Dylan Moore, Kyle Lewis at the top of this order that no one's going to have for ownership and be contrarian in tournaments because they're in a great matchup. I'm not going to promote stacking this team today, though, because, they just aren't good. And then second to worst on our list is that, and Plutko is a guy who we already covered. I'm not going to stack these Tigers against him, and I might play him, but, not the most ideal spot. And then, third guy we want to target is that Dakota Hudson. When you're looking at his numbers, he's got a 5.04 Sierra, 17.8 K rate. His ground ball and his fly ball rate stuff is actually pretty good, though. And against righties, he's good. But when we go over to lefties, that's when things get interesting. He struggles a little more against the lefties. So, he's a little splitsy, as we like to call it. So I have some interest in these Cincinnati Reds lefties. And, when looking at their run total, once again, it's a 4.35 implied run total. So we're not really wanting to stack these guys, but looking at the splits, we can have some interest in some power lefties. And in particular, that and Jesse Winker, who's been very hot out of the gates. He's only 3.5 on DraftKings, so he's a guy I want to point out. Go over to my hot hitter StatCast data tool. We'll look for Mr. Jesse Winker here. And you can see, a lot of green across the board. He's got a 94.1 average exit velocity, 111.9 max velocity, 15.8% barrel percentage, and then 50% hard contact rate. So he's been hot at it. He's been hot, and if you look at the StatCast data tool, that just backs it up. You're comparing him up to the 100 hottest hitters in the league in barrels, and a color-coded sheet, and then you look at what he has, and it's a lot of green going on there. So just gives you an idea. He's been hot, and he's a guy you're going to want to have interest in. And then you look at the matchup he has with Dakota Hudson, a guy that struggles against lefties a little bit. You factor in that he's hot, and you like him a lot in your lineups today. So he's a good one-off option. And moving further along, we have Nick Margevicius. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He's got a 16.7 K percentage, and then against righties, a 444 slugging. So a 444 slugging is less than ideal for him. And then against lefties, he's actually been really bad. He's got a 676 slugging given up against lefties. And that's where things get interesting because people do not like to play lefty on lefty matchups, and that's going to make these lefties low owned. And when you have a guy like Joey Gallo who mashes baseballs and he's taking on a lefty that struggles against lefties, and then you throw in the fact that he's not going to be owned at all, I definitely like Joey Gallo today. And I don't think me telling you, the sneaky pick is going to raise his ownership. So, yeah, take that for whatever you want. I think I provided you guys with some factual information, as far as the splits. And then Joey Gallo just crushes. 676 slugging is not good. The hard contact rate's a 42.7, and then WOBA, he gives a 437 WOBA. And then not to mention, he only strikes out people 12.3, or lefties 12.3% of the time. So Joey Gallo is a guy that crushes baseballs. The only time we ever worry about him is when he's striking out and he gets a matchup like this. So I'm going to go ahead and once again, I'm giving you guys a lot of sneaky one-offs here, but I think it's good to go ahead and break down, some of the things that I look at on my sheet, give you a little bit of a sneak peek, and then, give you factual reason as to why these guys are good plays, and then give you sneaky plays that you can play in tournaments that are going to be low owned and give you a chance to win a lot of money. So Joey Gallo is at the top of that list. Sneaky play, ton of power, ton of upside. I don't think he's going to get the ownership today, being that people are going to see he's taking on a left-handed pitcher and they're going to go, okay, he's taking on a lefty, I'm not interested. And then with that being said, you have the Todd father and the 5-hole right behind him who absolutely mashes left-handed pitching. So I like Todd Frazier. And, you could really just throw in anyone with power, and we mentioned the reverse split. So Rougned Odor, Sin Chu you could throw in there to finish out your stacks. And then you got Danny Santana and Nick Solak, who could also crush left-handed pitching. So some interest in the Texas bats as a sneaky stack. And then, I think it's probably time to start talking about some more less sneaky spots. And, when you're looking at run totals today, one that really stands out is this Oakland-Los Angeles Angels game, where the implied total of the game is at 9.5 total. Each team has a 4.75 implied total. And then when you look at the pitchers in the matchup, we have Andrew Heaney. And when looking at Heaney's numbers, You can see he's got a pretty decent K rate, and he's pretty respectable across the board. But when looking at Heaney's splits, that's when things get interesting. Against righties, he gives up a 43% hard contact rate, and then a 441 slugging. And then against lefties, he's very good. So Heaney's a guy that you want to target, in particular right-handed hitters. And this Oakland lineup is one that can provide us with that, because they're just stacked with guys that crush left-handed pitching. So Mark Canha, Matt Chapman, Ramon Laureano, Marcus Semien, Piscotty, Chris Davis, Chad Pinder, and Sean Murphy. Literally have interest in every single one of them. This Oakland A's lineup is designed to crush left-handed pitching. Anytime they're taking on a lefty, I have interest in. Anytime they're taking on a lefty with hard contact issues, that's when things get real interesting. The only thing I would mention is that when you look at Heaney's numbers, he does have, a 25.2% K rate against right-handed hitting, so he can get his fair share of strikeouts against high strikeout guys. So that would be my only disclaimer. But other than that, I mean, great matchup for these A's to go off, and particularly for salary relief option, Chad Pinder at 2.7 at second base on DraftKings is tremendous salary relief. So want to go ahead and throw him out there as an option. And then you just got to like the stack. And who are you going to stack? You're going to stack the guys with power. So, most notably 1 through 4. But then Piscotty, Chris Davis, Chad Pinder, and Sean Murphy at the bottom of this lineup also crush left-handed pitching. So let's say you want to get up to an expensive pitcher. You want to throw in a stack that's contrarian. A great way to be contrarian and different from the field in tournaments is to just go ahead and play hitters that are low in the order. So maybe stack, 6 through 9 in this lineup, get some salary relief, and then throw in some top-tier pitching. Just some food for thought there. This is stuff you got to think about. If you're playing in these tournaments with thousands of people and you want to win $100,000, you have to be different. You're not going to win by just playing the same people everyone else is playing. You have to play people that no one's playing, not play people that a lot of people are playing, have the players that everyone is playing do bad, and then your players that no one is playing do good. That's how this works for game theory. So I try to make that down in a simple way, but it's the truth. If you're not willing to be different, you're never going to win that $100,000 prize. And these are the things I try to explain, teach, just bring up to you guys. Yeah, it's a rant there, but something you got to think about when you're building your lineups. And then let's move on over to this Los Angeles Angels lineup. They're taking on Mike Fiers, who, when looking at his numbers, is less than impressive, across the board, really. He's got a 17.5% K rate and an 8% swinging strike rate. So he doesn't strike anyone out. And then looking at his splits, he really struggles against right-handed hitting. He gives up a 458 slugging. And then against lefties, he's actually pretty good. So the Los Angeles Angels have this guy on their team, and his name is Mike Trout, and he's pretty good at baseball. So you're going to want to play Mike Trout. He's at 6'2". So the price tag's there. So, maybe that's where a guy like Adam Plucko that we had talked about earlier, if a pitching option comes into play, as you can throw him in there as a salary relief option, and then maybe get some elite bats like Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon in there. But yeah, I mean, with his numbers against righties, we do prefer them. But the lefties you can target as well to finish out the stack, because you got Tommy La Stella and Shohei Ohtani, who crush right-handed pitching. And then you got Albert Pujols, who's been showing a little bit of a power surge in his old age. And then Joe Adell, the top prospect at 2.8, is righty as well. So, high total. And then when we're breaking down both of these teams' bullpens, you can see that the Athletics actually have a very good bullpen. Whereas if you go over to the Angels, they're not so impressive. So that's something to think about as well as far as stacking. That makes me like the A side a little more. So maybe look at the Angels as more of one-offs. Most notably, obviously Mike Trout, but for good reason. I mean, Mike Trout is Mike Trout, and then you look at the splits against righties, and that's where things make it real juicy. Real good spot for Mike Trout. And then lastly, my last stack I'm going to have to mention to you guys is that in these Minnesota Twins. The Minnesota Twins get to go to Kansas City and take on Danny Duffy. And when looking at Danny Duffy's numbers, He's right below Mike Fiers here as far as in the Sierra category, and he's just orange and red across the board. Duffy is a great pitcher to target in daily fantasy sports, and we want to target him with right-handed hitters. If you go over to his splits against lefties, you can see that's when he gets a little more impressive. But righties, he's just bad, and then overall, he's just bad. I mean, really, we're looking at my sheet here. Danny Duffy's the only guy that doesn't have a single category where he's green in. He's orange across the board, he's red across the board, and he's taking on a Minnesota team that absolutely rakes. So when we look at the team hitting data over here, looking at the Twins, they just are a consistent team across the board. And you know what, to be honest with you, they don't even stand out that much on my sheet in comparison to how much I like them. So the only reason I say that is I want to go ahead and make sure it's known I like them a lot today. And then not to mention when you look at the bullpen that the Royals display, it's, less than impressive. A lot of yellow going on there. So anyone that comes in behind Duffy, we could like this stack even more. So Minnesota comes in with a 4.67 implied run total, and my favorite options in this lineup are going to be the guy that crushed the lefties. So you got Nelson Cruz, Miguel Sano. I mean, they're my top options. And to be honest with you, when we look down this lineup that they're probably going to roll out today, with no Mitch Garver, that does kind of limit the appeal of the stack. So I'm kind of thinking out loud here, but maybe not a full stack. But I can tell you one thing: Nelson Cruz and Miguel Sano in the middle of that order are great plays today. They're in great spots. And then you look at the weather; it's 84 degrees in Kansas City with winds blowing out to left at 5 miles an hour. So, like the Twins today, those are my favorite options. But then it could be contrarian to throw in an Eddie Rosario and a Max Kepler, who no one has. And don't get me wrong, it's going to cost you a lot, but not everyone's going to stack them up. And then the bullpen comes in behind Duffy, and you're looking at a great stack. And I said that was going to be my last one, but I have to mention this Baltimore Red Sox game, John Means and Colton Brewer. And the reason I have to mention it is because we do have some guys that we could target on both sides, really. So John Means and Colton Brewer, I'm going to try to make this quick and wrap this up. John Means and Colton Brewer are right next to each other. John Means in this top row, he's pretty much right across the board except for the walk and the hard hit rate. And then you go to righties, he gives us a 454 slugging. Brewer's giving up a 475 slugging. And then lefties, they're both more impressive. So that makes it easiest to break this down. We prefer right-handed hitters, and they both give up a lot of hard contact. And then you got the bullpens coming in behind them. So Colton Brewer, guy we can target with these Orioles bats. Most notably the guys with power. I would just target the guys with power overall. I'm not even going to worry about the splits. But with that being said, we do prefer the righty. So Renato Nunez is my number one option. But then I want to throw in Chance Sisco. I want to throw in Anthony Santander. I want to throw in Rio Ruiz. And then Alberto and Dwight Smith. So the 1 through 6 in this lineup is really what I'm looking at today. And then for the Red Sox, it's these righties that can crush the left-handed pitching. So JD Martinez is an absolute elite option on the slate. Xander Bogaerts, Christian Vasquez, Michael Chavis, and then Jose Peraza I like as well. Those are the guys I'm looking at. And then Kevin Pillar at the top of the order I should mention as well. Didn't mean to leave him out. I probably wouldn't pay 5.2 for Rafael Devers today, but if you want to throw him in the stack, it is a contrarian play probably because he's taken on the lefty initially, and I would get that. But then you got Verdugo down at 4.4. I probably wouldn't play him. It's mainly these righties that I'm interested in. So that is my overall breakdown of this slate. Hope you guys enjoyed the Free Friday. It's the first time I did that, but I think it's a cool thing. Go ahead and show you guys some appreciation for tuning into the videos. Appreciate all the support. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a ton with the YouTube algorithm. I greatly appreciate that. And then go ahead and check out my Patreon package. Link will be in the description. Check out what I have to offer over there. You'll get my header StatCast data, my team hitting data, my bullpen data, my cheat sheet, and my power rankings. So a lot of good stuff. Working hard on that. And if you're interested, I think it will provide value to you. I think it's affordable. I think it'll help your lineups. You'll make that money back that you invest, and it supports me. that is all about that. I wish you guys all the best of luck tonight, and have a good one.